Hello, my name is Kevin Jones. I'd like to welcome you to GSMI, God Send Ministries International. Every now and then, I like to really give um, a message or really kind of like a story of how we got started. And it's probably the most common way that all of us get started if we're sensitive to what God is doing in our lives. Well, I received a call to ministry 17 going into my 18th birthday. Okay. And at this time, I'm teaching in Sunday school and found out that I had really a good strength. God can give me great grace. But one day I had preached and I saw the light of God come into the room and land on one of the young men. From that point on, I knew I was called to preach, no doubt about it. Okay. After that, I kind of leave my local church and begin to start street preaching at this time. This began to be a very important part of the early part of my ministry. I began to preach and I loved it. I love street ministry. I love field ministry and continue to do it to this day, just not as much or in the same way. But later I would meet a wonderful woman named Sultana Lockett. She would become my wife. And then her name was Sultana Jones. Well, anyway, Sultana, who was very content just to be my helpmeet, would go with me into the city as she would stand with me and preach. And it was so encouraging. But one day, okay, she was just minding her own business. There was a man by the name of Jerry Dodson. Jerry Dean Dodson saw her call and encouraged her, sent her out, made her youth minister. From that point on, my wife became a community outreach coordinator and a youth minister. And so you see now preaching is established, and you see now also community outreach is standing, which remains unto this day. Now, I began, though I was always a prayer man, I began my first prayer ministry at the same time that Sultana started her outreach. They were kind of birthed at the same time. And so from that point on, I began to lead prayer groups and even arrange prayer groups and even teach them. And I'm doing that unto this day. And then the other thing that happened about 7 years ago, I discovered media, and that affected both prayer, first of all, prayer. Second of all, preaching. That's what RRN came about. I began to preach my sermons through this medium because I began to lose the ability to preach on the street, just old age and wear and tear, I guess. But God had another vehicle. So now we have media connected to preaching and to prayer. So this shows you that all this was going on for all these years. And remember, while this is going on, we're serving other ministries, other pastors, and getting more involved in what they're doing but still moving out on what I just described to you all these years. And now I want to share with you how the name God Send Ministry came about. The name God Send Ministry came about because my wife one day, through the media ministry, there's a young man that heard one of my sermons and wanted to find out, what is this all about? What is this RRN? What is this preaching? Never heard anything like it. And so my wife just happened to be doing correspondence. She talks to this young man. This young man becomes attached to my wife. And this young man is really the basis for what we call God Send Ministry International. This is how the story goes. As my wife and Dalam really connect, she becomes the mother of Dalam because Dalam lost his parents because he became a Christian. And I became like a father. Now, what's going on now is that they're corresponding to each other, and she's encouraging him, and she says, you need to be filled with the Spirit. And he says, how do I do that, Mom? And she laid her hands on the phone. He laid his own hands on his head. He got filled with the Holy Spirit. His ministry exploded in Bangladesh. And when he would go out and minister, people would be so touched. One man said, you are a God send. You are sent from God. And that's how the name God Send Ministry came about. We didn't select the name. It was a man that we didn't even meet, didn't even know. Dalam didn't even know him, that said, this is a blessing to our community. Now, I want you to know that God named the ministry as just as he gave Sultan and I all these facets. So we got missions and we have media, which is divided into prayer and preaching. We have community outreach, and we still do all those things on the local level. So I want to say to you, be encouraged. Whatever God is doing to you, don't say it's small. We didn't think it was anything. We thought it was small, but now I'm in 102 nations. So, well, I don't know if you call that small, but I tell you one thing is more than what I had ever expected. Well, anyway, I just want to encourage you to go to our website, which is www.gsmi.com. Find out more about us and our journey. Hopefully, we'll update the site pretty soon. It's kind of old, but you'll still be blessed with everything that it will tell you about. And you'll be able to see Dalam, and you'll be able to see our widows, our pennies, and everything. So from Sultan and I, God bless you, and I will see you in videos to come. Bye-bye.